Tiamat, what do you got for me?
Hello and welcome everyone to the 8-2 Goddess of the Salt Sea update show. I'm Titan Isaiah, your host for today, and it's been a minute since we've done one of these live, so I'm super excited. We've got an absolute banger of a show today.
Banger.
Of course, we've got the first round of balance for Season 8, a bunch of awesome skins, and the reveal of the first god of Season 8, Tiamat. I am super excited to go through everything. And of course, I've got Ajax and Mon-Fri from the design team here with me. How are you guys doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Things are going really well. Season 8's been awesome. Just doing really good.
There's been so much feedback and data to look at with this season. It's so many exciting changes with all of
there's
the
a lot of
brand new
flipping
map,
people
all the
playing
starters.
Smite right now.
It's been a really exciting
They
launch.
better have a lot of data, you know?
We've been busy. I'll just say that.
Most definitely. Well, I know we've got a lot to go over, and like you were saying, AJ, lots of data, lots of feedback coming in. So Season 8 is live. Talk to me a little bit about what we're seeing on our end and kind of the strategy for this first round of big balance going into Season 8.
This is a really interesting time of the year, right? This is the first major update after our new season. There's somehow everything sounds OP, and then also nothing sounds OP, depending on who you talk to and what role you're in and what type of god you're playing. One thing we've just noticed is that the feedback is all over the place. We see a lot of people trying strategies that are completely opposite of each other and still doing really well, right? We've got a lot of conflicting information going on.
It's the Dota style of gameplay.
Wanted to preface today's update with the kind of the idea that we're trying to be careful. We don't want to go nerfing things into the ground right off the bat.
I mean, this is what we said they would do. Like I said, it's going to be little baby
really
taps.
What we're planning on first is in the 8-1 bonus, which players will be receiving soon. We're doing a lot of shifts across all the starter items. With our primary goal of kind of making each class feel like there are multiple options in the starter items, all feel like viable options, and that one is not clearly dominating. Pon could probably have a little bit more to add on the general practice here before we go into the individual.
I love that idea. That's what I was hoping they would do.
I think the big thing to note here is we're
loud.
looking at things that, if there are things that have general consensus around them, maybe being a bit more severe with our nerf or buff than other items that we're still a little bit unsure of. And also generally just kind of tempering what we change here, because things are still rapidly moving around. We see a lot of different strategies still in play. So what is actually the best isn't necessarily super well defined. So a lot of the changes might be a little bit smaller than you might be expecting in some cases. That's just mostly because we want to make sure that people have time to actually mess around with the strategies and really prove out that they are the most effective strategies before just immediately nerfing them.
That's
awesome.
fine, baby.
So, yep. Taking a look at starter items.
I don't mind baby
bonus
taps
balance.
on the first patch of the year.
So let's go ahead and get right into bonus balance. It's going to be going live next week on February 9th to you all. And we're going to kick it off with Conduit Jim. This is the kind of go-to mage starter item, has been the general consensus amongst the community. So Conduit Jim's going to be seeing
good change.
Going to be
it
decreasing
is pretty
MP5
much the only one
and
anybody
also
buys.
decreasing the magical power on it.
Oh, it looks like that's listing the Archmage's Gem nerf. Spoilers.
Spoiler.
Pon,
why don't I'll take the set of these mage, and then you can take the next set, because they're kind of these balance changes are coming in packages. So first we're looking at mage starters, specifically the Conduit Gem starter, which, sorry for the typo here at the bottom, but what you're going to be seeing is on this starter item, you're going to see 5 less MP5 and 5 less magical power.
Good.
Just nudging that one down to try to make it a more attractive option between Sands of Time and Vamp Shroud and the other mage options. Right now, Conduit Gem is kind of the clear performer, so we're taking that one down.
It
we're
absolutely
also
is.
Nerfing the Archmage's Gem,
as you should.
That is the 2.5% scaling per stack down
so
to 2%.
Instead of 50%, it's 40%.
So that's
great.
Going to significantly lower the amount of additional burst damage that a few mages are using very effectively. You know, Nuwa, Scylla. We know a lot of mages are using this really effectively. So instead of nerfing those gods directly, what we're doing here is instead nerfing the Conduit Gem as well as the Archmage's Gem. That is going to be combined with the third change, Pendulum of the Ages, which is an upgrade from the Sands of Time line. That's going to be getting
fantastic.
Up to 20%
there we
cooldown.
go.
That is a big change.
There
right?
we go. Now it's actually a good item. Fantastic.
We were initially concerned that you might have issues with properly capping your cooldown with a item that was level locked and also have 20%. But we saw a lot of mages that were just interested in this option and said that this would be a better way to make this extended to the late game.
Fantastic.
We're also increasing some of the magic power that you're able to get from your mana, which is so just more power and more cooldown. to help it compete.
Now Sands
with
of Time
Archmages
is
and
actually a
Conduit Jim.
viable starter because it has a viable
All right, so that's
late
kind
game
of your
item.
Mage starter
Beautiful
item
change.
package here. Let's move on to some of the jungle/solo items, and we've got
Fantastic.
Mannequin Scepter back with a vengeance in this update. It's been everyone's favorite new starter item.
Interesting.
So, we're going to be seeing a nerf to Mannequin Scepter, both in bonus and in the main update when 8.2 launches, but we'll get into that a little bit later.
Very
but for this
interesting.
bonus balance round, we're going to be decreasing the protections, the bonus damage on Mannequin Scepter, but increasing the bonus damage in the jungle.
Yeah, so really, I think the thing that we've seen in solo lane is that
they want to get it
at
out of
very
the
top
solo
end,
lane.
Warriors
Really
Axe has
bad.
been actually the dominant performer. We've seen a lot of top end Warrior players really feel like this is really strong. Where and the direct competition to that is Mannequin Scepter, with Bluestone kind of being pushed towards the less used item. It's still quite potent, but it's not competing at the very top level with the Warriors Axe and the Mannequin Scepter. So this patch, we're largely trying to give Bluestone a little bit of an extra option, as well as decrease Mannequin Scepter and Warriors Axe to bring them all closer together. So this one, Mannequin Scepter, obviously super high bully item. Not just in solo lane, but also in the duo lane. Hunters are building this as well. So taking some of the physical protection off, some of the bonus damage, but then boosting the jungle damage just so that junglers can still utilize it for their clear speed. Should hopefully take the edge off of that for the solo lane matchup. We did see very quickly that this item kind of exploded in popularity as we kind of rounded out our bonus balance. We have one more nerf coming in the actual 8.2 patch, which will be a reduction to its attack speed. So it is getting one more nerf on top of this that won't be there immediately, but it will be coming just because we felt like after it exploded so much, it probably did need additional nerfs from what we originally had here.
It's
That's
the new
fine by
hotness,
me.
man. And like you were saying, so we're going to be seeing a little bit of a decrease in Mannequin Scepter, but some changes to Bluestone to kind of bring it up. So Bluestone Brooch is actually going to be providing 200 health in bonus balance.
Yep, so this is the upgrade to Bluestone, and really Bluestone itself competes pretty well in lane, but it didn't really have a solid upgrade option for a tanky bruiser who just wanted to stay tanky
So that
bruiser.
way you can go like more of a Wukong.
You can either go the super offensive
late game still make
Bluestone,
sad.
or you can go Bluestone Brooch, which will give you that 200 health to just kind of be the front line for your team.
We've also seen people leveraging that attack speed debuff on Bluestone's upgrade as well as an interesting way, but it doesn't quite give you the tanky stats, so we wanted to go ahead and put that here clearly on the Brooch.
Right. Definitely.
Nothing against
and then,
that.
Last up for solo, an item that I think is kind of sleeper. I haven't seen a whole lot of talking about it compared to things like Mannequin Scepter, but Warriors Axe, surprisingly good item, and it's going to be seeing a little bit of a shift in the bonus balance. So it's no longer going to provide the 2 flat damage reduction, but we're going to be increasing the health from 50 to 75.
It's probably a good change.
Yeah, so this, the flat damage reduction specifically on this item, let it trade especially well with its direct competition, Bluestone Brooch and or Bluestone Pendant and Mannequin Scepter. So reducing that will just make it
flat
so that
damage
trades are a bit
reduction,
more
and
consistent
it's
among
just
the group,
always too
as
good,
well as the increased health just to kind of
it's
offset
always
that
too
nerf.
good.
You have a little bit more health to play with in the early game, a little bit of extra wiggle room with your health to kind of play with. So a shift, largely a nerf in the kind of direct competition you're going to expect in the solo lane.
Right, and in line with this kind of damage, this flat damage reduction, we're going to be seeing a similar change to Sundering Axe, which is the upgrade from Warriors Axe, seeing a 5 flat damage reduction to the item.
This is partially a consistency change where upgrades generally don't have different stats. Obviously, the starters with all their various rules kind of break that, but this felt a place where we could be consistent, as well as it just kind of didn't make sense for this item to have that flat damage reduction if Warriors Axe wasn't going to.
Flat damage reduction.
And although
is
you might
so
have not seen this item a lot in
Smite.
your games, we have seen it pretty overwhelmingly at high ranking games. We already received pretty consistent pro feedback from many pro solo laners and guardians saying that Warriors Axe was by far the safest and most consistent starter. A lot of mannequin starts, people doing Bluestone, a lot of people doing some fun stuff, but pretty overwhelming feedback that one was just the best and the safest. So that these little shifts might take you a bit by surprise. They are shifts, which, as you see, normally we just do strictly meta nerfs in bonus balance, but across this patch, you notice we're doing a lot of buffs and nerfs and even shifts on the same item to really just try to fine-tune these starter items to be a little bit more close to each other. And we heavily suspected that with the nerfs we were planning to Mannequin, that Warriors Axe would have just become the go-to. Everyone has to buy it. And solo laners, they already went through seasons where they only had one option. We want to give more options. So this nerf should open up a lot more options in the solo lane, which honestly, we have seen a lot of crazy experimentations over there. We've seen aggressive Guardians.
Bluestone
we've seen
becomes a lot more enticing
we've seen some really cool stuff.
when your opponent can't flat reduce your damage,
Right, and speaking of more options,
A
we got
lot
another
more
one that's kind of
enticing.
towards the solo lane. I've seen a few little experimentations with Warting Sigil in the solo lane. We're going to be making a buff to this item. It's now going to provide
okay.
10 physical protections, but we're
Interesting.
decreasing the health from 100 to 75.
So you can buy it
Yeah,
a
we're talking about
little bit
Mannequins,
more for
Warrior's
in
Axe, and
lane.
Bluestone, and that is
Yep.
technically not the 3 warrior starter
Yeah.
items. That's 1 assassin
Yeah.
and 2 warriors.
Yep.
This is the other warrior starter item that largely was just too narrow in its focus of being anti-magical. So we're going to give it a little bit more rounded defense. It's still very
help
good
you in
against
lane a
magical.
little bit
It's
now.
better against magical than physical. But it's not going to be completely useless against.
Because you have to
against a
factor
physical
in the
god,
like the
as well as those
minions,
physical minions that are gonna be hitting you in the early-
physical
or
protections
early
are so
stages of the
helpful
game.
for the minions early game.
Right.
So
Warting
helpful.
Sigil seeing a buff, and also seeing a buff to both of its upgrades. Infused Sizzle, we're going to be buffing that, decreasing the stat count to detonate, and then also increasing the detonate damage by 100.
500. That
Yeah,
could
so
be
this
cool.
was the whole tree, both the start as well
That
as some of
could
the
be
upgrades
cool,
just
man.
felt underwhelming.
I don't know.
Infused Sigil is this very offensive choice, but you couldn't really play with it too much. We want to make that explosion more frequent and more damaging. So
Like
do
if you
feel
did a
what
little
happens, you
sigil
can kind of
plus a
play
little
towards that
pridvin,
strength.
I don't know,
And
some
the next
splody
one,
on
Sigil the Old
splody
Guard,
action, man.
It's going to be getting some physical
That could
protection
be
as well,
cool.
similar to its tier 1 counterpart, just so that has more well-rounded defenses, so you're not going into the late game with only magical defense.
Yep, Sigil of the Old Guard just now going to provide 30 physical protections going forward here. So that wraps it up for that whole tree.
right.
And for solo as well. So let's move from the right side of the map and start talking about the left side a little bit. And let's talk about Benevolence, so your
That's
support
gonna get a
starter
buff
item
for
here.
sure.
It's going to be seeing a
Yeah.
buff, and we're just decreasing the cost.
Yep.
Yeah, so
Great
we've
change.
seen the Sentinel starter
Great
kind
change.
of take over the duo lane pretty clearly.
I love that.
Now, we've seen a lot of interesting starts there, too. We've seen some people trying to use mannequins and support as well as Warflag. But we definitely felt like those were undervalued and undertuned compared to the Sentinel starter. So what you're going to see is a decrease to cost to Benevolence, which we really think this item has a lot of potential. One, because its upgrades are good, and we're going to be getting to some more buffs here soon. And because the ability to kind of level spike someone is really strong, although it could be difficult to apply.
Yeah.
But we're just bringing the cost down here to let those Guardians better
Yeah, no,
build
that's
into
fantastic.
Hand of the Gods if they need that, or more
That
potions,
makes it
or be a
so
little
much
bit
more
flexible for
viable
starting
for
builds.
a duo.
And we're going to
So
be making
much.
a similar change to Warflag whenever that comes up.
Yep, Warflag is actually next, so decreasing the cost. We can just kind of talk right in line.
we're
with that.
decreasing my
AJ,
war-
you're predicting the future. I like it.
Woo!
Yeah, so
Oh, baby!
I've seen people I've been watching, are experimenting with this in support. You can get some really cool aggressive starts
Oh,
with this,
man.
especially when you stack up something like Talisman of Energy as the
Oh,
game goes on,
baby.
really be a very strong aura
Buff my
source for your
Warflag.
team. Although these don't technically count as auras because they're actually triggered AoE
That's so
buffs
good.
with a duration, they're not persistently on.
Warflag's already
But
so
you can
good.
get that kind of buff ball strategy going where you can be a really, really strong buffer for your team.
Mm-hmm.
We think this has some pretty good stats. We're just bringing the cost down similarly to
that.
Benevolence.
It does.
Again, to help even it up with the other options.
Oh yeah, love that.
All right, and you kind of touched on it a little bit towards the top of the support discussion, but next up is Sentinel's Embrace, which has kind of been the overall consensus that this is the
Yeah.
best kind of upgraded support
That's what
starter
everybody's
item.
been
So it's going to
buying.
be seeing a nerf here in bonus.
That's
We're going to
good.
be decreasing both protection shared between allies and
That's
on
all
the
anybody
passive.
buys.
Yeah, so what you'll see here is actually we buffed the other starters. In some roles we're nerfing and buffing the starters, adjusting them, but for this case we're buffing Warflag and Benevolence, just getting straight buffed, while the Sentinel starter is going to remain the same. But then we're nerfing this upgraded Sentinels, which this one seems to be the very specific go-to, and we've seen a lot of people talking about how tanky people can get, especially in the late game. So there's always, a lot of discussion about how tanky or how bursty is a meta at the very beginning of the year. People tend to play a lot more aggressive and a lot more experimentally, so that is a lot of times what you're feeling more so than the true itemization. But we've seen here with this item that this can make a team really tanky, especially in the late game. So we're just tuning this down a little bit to make the other options
Hey,
more
so far
attractive.
all these changes have been fantastic.
Right, so we've still got a couple more support starter items and upgrades to talk about here. Next up is Compassion, going to be seeing a buff here. Compassion is now going to provide 40 magical protections.
Nice.
And this is pretty much a way to help it compete with Sentinel's Embrace.
Cool.
But if you want
Yes.
the benevolent start with the more interesting XP, this is a way you can kind of round that out with
All
tankiness
right,
in
all
the
right,
late
all
game.
right. I'm into it.
All right,
Yeah, the
next up-
magical protection will help it specifically because the damage
the damage
redirected
is magical.
So this will help you self reduce that compassionate damage
Yes,
taking
it is.
you're doing.
Very nice.
Next up in the same tree, everyone's kind of fun new troll kind of starter upgrade that has been going over on social media. Everybody's been talking about it. Animosity, going to be seeing a nerf here. It is no longer going to deal bonus damage to structures.
Nobody will ever pick it up anymore.
Animosity, and because I know it's been just a talk in the community ever since season.
It was a strictly meme item.
Specifically,
it's not actually good.
Is that we think that skipping a starter item to try to build sort of an off-roll one in the late game, we think that's a pretty fair trade-off, meaning that what we think is skipping a starter item is hurting your early game quite a lot. So sure, maybe you could be really strong with animosity in the late game.
Yeah, nobody will ever buy it now.
You're hurting your early game a lot to be able to do that. And we're generally keeping an eye on this. We do think it kind of breaks the spirit of the design a little bit, but we'd like to have players have more flexibility as long as the trade-offs feel fair. We don't want people being able to skip starters and feel like, oh, I'm super powerful the whole game, and then when I finish animosity, I'm unkillable. The next thing about animosity is that we found that this is a bit of a meme build. Like, I know some people are putting up good numbers with it, but we've been running the stats on it very closely, and it's not winning that many games.
Yeah, you know how I know it's not winning? Because it's not picked in any ranked game ever when anybody's playing serious at all. The only person who builds it
really
is trolls.
Use the effect to its maximum. Like, sure, that's interesting, but it's not particularly strong. It generally just does the best on true aggressive supports, like Ymir, Terra, a few like that. That's where it's really doing the best. And those gods are possibly buying Benevolence as a starter item anyway, right? So what we chose to do here, which maybe Pon could explain a little bit more, is just touch the structure damage, specifically because that's an even higher level of frustration and cheese that we wanted to just be careful with.
Yeah, a lot of the complaints we were seeing really were it felt like you couldn't really protect your tower against this. They could come in and like just really kill your structure, especially the double hit characters, the Zhang Kui and the Erlang Shen. And even though we saw that strategy not actually put up great numbers, it's not necessarily the most fun to play against, even if it isn't a winning strategy. So removing this not only focuses the item more towards those aggressive supports, which was their intended goal, but also reduces the frustration case of players utilizing it too effectively. The Ymirs, which I think Ymir is actually one of the most winning characters with this item in general.
I think he was the most winning.
Yeah, he shouldn't
to be
feel
fair,
this
he
that
has
much,
a giant
the characters where this was
baseline
being utilized in a frustrating manner, the Zhang Kui split
for the
push,
item, so
they're going to feel this a lot more.
So one last thing to say is, no one is impressed by you soloing Fire Giant for 2 whole minutes, just standing there. If the other team is not checking Fire Giant for 2 whole minutes, then you deserve that Fire Giant. We don't care how many people it took to kill it. We're not super concerned about that, but we don't like the split push. We don't like Phoenixes or Towers going down fast, because those are squishier than Fire Giant in many cases. So we feel like this is the safest change to make. We'll definitely keep an eye on it, and we're sure people are going to keep memeing on it, and we want to keep that dream alive, but we don't want to just kill it outright from the very get-go.
Right.
Definitely. All right, we've got one more kind of starter item upgrade to talk about in bonus balance. Death's Temper, going to be seeing a buff here, and we're going to be increasing the range at which you can gain stacks from enemies.
30 to 80.
Yeah, so this is a good segue for 2 things. One is Death's Temper just felt like this range was so short you'd kill something and wouldn't actually get any stacks from it. That is something that should now just feel more consistent with other items that actually result in that. But the second big thing here is that a lot of the item effects that have range-specific activations, their text will not be updated to describe that. So you don't have to guess now if I need to be in like 40 units or 50 units. That'll just be on the item where it's applicable. So you'll be able to see that as well.
This also has a bug fix coming as well, which will be stated later. But yeah,
cool.
This was the only hunter buff we had.
And then last up,
Hunters. Your items are
bonus
5.
balance. Rata-Tahuti going to be seeing a nerf. Mages are doing a lot of damage, and this is a really popular item amongst them. So we're going to be decreasing the power from 160 to 140.
Not taking off the pen.
Yeah, we're seeing right now just a very large power spike in mages, specifically in the mid game when they get a few of these items online. So we're bringing that down to kind of touch mages as a whole. There's other classes have been nerfed as a whole. Ones are using mannequins right now, so all of those getting nerfed. So we think this is a pretty good balance amongst the roles. We know there's some specific gods that people think stand out, but we just chose to kind of address it through Rod-Up-Tahuti, Archmage's Gem, and
honest, I don't know how much
this
20
was
magical
one of the clearest
power
top performers outside of
reduction
the starter items, and that's why we chose to do it here in bonus balance. We think this is a safe change for the short term as we continue to collect a lot more data for
to be
future.
real.
All right, well, that wraps it up for
Not
items,
sure how
but we
that's
do have
gonna
a couple
really
gods to
change
talk
that,
about in
so.
bonus balance. First up, we're going to talk about Set. Set going to be seeing a nerf here. Going to be decreasing the base damage on Skewer and decreasing the base healing on Kingslayer.
Good.
Pawn, I'll let you take this one and talk to me about Set.
He's banned every game.
Yeah, so gods for bonus balance this time around are really the top performers from last season that are still top performing, that we expect to remain top performing, and weren't largely affected by the healing changes that occurred.
Like
and
Set.
Set meets all those categories. So Set was just this strong character. Itemization helped him out. He was very highly contested. And he just bullies people. You can see him as a top ban.
He'll honestly still probably be banned regardless.
He gets for
but at least they recognize that he's,
5-10, where
needs love taps.
He's gotten his skewer fully ranked up and he can dive you. That is going to be less lethal with the base damage reduction, as well as the Kingslayer flat damage reduction.
All right, and then last up for bonus balance, we've got Cupid going to be seeing a nerf. We're going to be decreasing the scaling on Heart Bomb and increasing the cooldown on Fields of Love, the ultimate.
You know, this little guy has been a beast since the buffs early last season. We've seen him just continue to be a top contested pick. We did do a slight touch.
I can't believe they're nerfing Cupid and not Apollo.
We didn't see him react to it very heavily, so we are bringing it down.
I don't even think I've seen Cupid be played.
At least on the dev team, we really enjoyed seeing Cupid being a top pick in the SPL, which it hasn't been the case for years. But he started to just be so high in the pick ban contesting. So coming down a little bit. Hopefully, we still see him considered as a viable pick in the SPL. Because I think he's just really fun and interesting to watch. But had to even him up with some of the other hunters out there.
All right, well, that wraps it up for bonus balance. That's coming out next week to you guys. But alongside all this balance, we've got an awesome amount of skins. We've got a few skins that are coming up next week, too.
An awesome amount of skins.
We definitely want to talk about, we'll kick things off with Dawn of Babylon, the new event, and one that ever since he got released, we've seen players ask about this one. We've got Home Run Heimdall. As
there
in
it is.
the Dawn of Babylon event. Your baseball
time that we home run somebody.
This is kind of the wide splash art, but I think we have another version that's going to be the actual card that you see on the loading screen in game.
There you go.
We've done some extra treatment, make it feel like a real baseball card. This one's looking super sick. Definitely a PSA 10 in my opinion. I don't know about you guys.
Mint condish.
I know, right?
Condish.
Oh my gosh! I remember when we first pitched Heimdall Ultimate.
That needed to be like put in the game for forever.
We have to do a baseball skin at some point, right? Like we just have to. He has to home run bat someone off into space.
Most definitely. I'm loving the details in the outfit and the hat and stuff, and we've got the turnaround here. The Asgard. I love the purples and golds too, and he's got that bat and the socks. I'm sure AJ will appreciate those.
I like it.
I wish I could show. I'm wearing lightning bolt socks. I got brand new ones for Christmas, but you can't see them because of this camera angle instead of the wider set. I miss it. But of course, I'm really stoked about this one. You know, we've done some more modern sports skins like Dunkfather Odin, so we've had some practice on making our characters feel really interesting in this regard. And this character, I know this one's all about the satisfaction of using the abilities, right? When you're gonna get in game,
I'm getting a little dizzy.
Alt and charge at someone.
We're
and
spinning
just
a little bit too much.
I
think we get 2 spins top side. Two spins.
This is gonna be all about
2 spins and we stop spinning.
Trust me when I say that it is. It's very satisfying to play.
Definitely, my man is tatted up too. I'm loving it. Let's go ahead and take a listen to the voice pack for Home Run Heimdall.
Cue that walk-up song, baby.
Still spinning.
He's definitely ready to knock
it
out
like
of the
9
park.
spins.
We got another one from Dawn of Babylon, and this one is going to be super exciting for a couple of community members that I can think of right off the top of my head.
Yeah,
we've got Book of Nightmares Thoth. The first,
we're really still spinning on Heim.
The skin in a long time here, and this one is looking super spooky, and this one's super creepy. AJ, what's going on with this one?
So, you know, I did write a section on the patch notes for 8.1 specifically mentioning that we're going to be doing our best to revisit skins for a bunch of gods who normally don't get skins.
That's cool.
This is one of those ones that was on that list, Thoth, finally getting one. And what we're trying to go for here is a really unique take on sort of a demon eldritch
That's pretty cool to me.
Thoth is defined kind of by his book, and you know, so is a lot of you know, Lovecraftian and other similar lore like that. It's a common theme in those types of fantasy to have these books that reveal, you know, terrifying secrets and powers with dark sides to them, and that's what you're going to see here with this Thoth skin.
Yeah,
cool
definitely looking forward to seeing how this one looks in game as we prep the turnaround here. The details in the clothing and the cloth armor are sick, and that book is definitely demonic
That's a
in my
sick
opinion.
skin. You get 2 spins,
Also
Tyrese.
makes
2
him not a bird,
spins.
which
That's
is
a cool.
cool.
That's a cool skin though.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, his beak and his face have been changed, so that's a really big change. That's really nice, and that gets a big theming change to it too. And we've been really just trying to make sure we push ourselves to make anything that's
a
demonic
good flipping
feel
skin.
a little bit unique, add a little bit more flavor to it too. So we've got a lot more experimental with our kind of colors and styles to just branch out from things beyond just fire and brimstone.
Yeah, this one's looking great. Let's go ahead and take a listen to the voice pack for this one.
Even the darkest of secrets are the path to power.
Holy cow! It's Voldemort Thoth, y'all.
I'm loving the voice pack. It fits his personality and this new kind of evil take for Thoth perfectly, in my opinion. So this is kind of demonic,
creepy.
but it's got some fantasy vibes. But the next one we've got up, it leans all the way into high
this
fantasy.
is at least
We've
the
got
third
Dragon's
spin.
Dagger Pele, and this is
pushing
probably
their
my
luck.
favorite card art of the entire update. I love just the glowing elements and the dragons and all the elf and fantasy vibes. What do you think, Pon?
Oh my gosh, when a dragons have bestowed power on your weapons, they're going to do some cool stuff. That's such a cool theme for the artwork.
This is almost a completely new theme, I guess I would say. This was a result of some more experimenting on the art side.
That's really cool.
Within the fantasy subgenres and things you might be familiar with from MMOs and other types of fantasy games. So this is kind of the first.
It almost looks like
so if you really like it, let us know. Show your love, and we'll keep this in mind for skins going forward.
Something from.
I've got a note here that the concept for this one was actually by Sam Hogg, who's actually done some work for the official
Hunters,
Song of Fire and Ice
and then
calendar,
they had the opposing side factions characters.
This one is definitely looking
really
sick. So let's go ahead and take a listen to the voice pack for this one.
With this power invested in me, I shall bring our enemies to their knees.
Cool.
I love it. Just something about the rhyming cantation. It's got the fantasy
elf. It looks like a night elf.
Yes, thank you. Move away from fantasy. We've got the dystopian chest coming out next week, and we've got modern android Achilles making his debut on the battleground as a part of that chest. So we're going from fantasy full sci-fi. What do you think about this one?
Another cool skin.
Another kind of new theme for us, right? Another kind of trying to explore a different type of sci-fi with a little bit more of a gritty, realistic feel to it, almost like if this android could be built within a few years or decades from here.
Around this shield.
Also, he's styling, which is just really cool.
Yeah, that is a long
character with some
torso.
Cool clothes. We were really excited.
That is a very sneakily long
it is Achilles,
torso.
Though, so if you want to go ahead and take that jacket off and go full bare-chested death machine, you certainly can do that too.
I'm loving all the little extra little pieces of
it a lot.
Armor and
I hate the fact that I'm still spinning, but I like the skin a lot.
So cool.
Yeah, this one's looking sick. I bet he sounds sick as well. Let's go ahead and
compounding is really getting into me.
You're gonna win this one. Trust me, I'm from the future.
That's a freaking cool voice. I don't know if these voice packs
this one is sick.
are going to be indicative of the year, but for the first patch of the year, these voice packs are so much better than the voice packs
update next week. Coming to you guys, I believe the date is February 9th. Don't hold me to it.
Normally they're super bland, but all of those were great.
Details, but we've got a lot of community news that we actually want to talk about as well. First up, we've got a lot of in-game stuff that you guys can get, earn stuff for free just by playing. The entire month this month, Black History Month, we're super excited to celebrate, and you all will be able to earn the Equality Avatar just by winning a game all month of February, which is super awesome. We've also got 2 Times Everything. We extended that event that is going through Thursday.
We're going to get a Dragon Story tweet about why he's not playing the game during February.
Definitely start playing some games. And then last but not least, over the weekend, if you want to get a little bit cute, you can get a cutesy avatar chest for getting 3 first wins of the day in game. So lots of awesome stuff going on. And then I've also got a plug for fans by fans. We've got the Fan Forge contest going on for all your artists. If you want to see your design on some official Smite merch, go ahead and go to forfansbyfans.com and get your submissions in. The world champion Pittsburgh Knights are going to be going through all the submissions and choosing finalists. And for the winner, you'll be able to get your own custom in-game avatar into Smite that you designed. Which is that
awesome. What you're trying to indicate to me?
Next up, for all of you guys that are watching on Twitch,
good to know.
If you've got your Prime Gaming subscription up and running, you can get Fiendish Rage Cucullin for free. Just click that crown at the top right of your screen there to claim your free skin reward as a part of Prime Gaming. We've got a different skin that comes out every month, and it's been super awesome to catch up on some of that stuff that you may have missed. And then last but not least, my big announcement for community in this patch, in this update show. We ran the Olympians election, and I'm super excited to announce and welcome our 2021 Olympians Player Council.
I don't know who that Chef Bird person is, but I love
Savvy it. Sore, Tempest in a Teacup, Black Eye, Davion 505, Kerr McHale, Sinister Phoenix, and Cher. We've got an awesome group that are rounding out this year's council, and we've actually started working with them a little bit earlier, and they've already been putting in a ton of work. AJ has been talking with them almost every day. Lots of awesome feedback and thoughts on Season 8 so far, and we are super excited to work with them this year. So congratulations to all of those, to the Olympians for Season 8. We're looking forward to working with you this year.
Love the Olympians program. It's been so
most
helpful
definitely.
Yeah,
it's been super awesome. All right,
we've been busy let's go ahead and talk about the new council already.
I know. Lots and lots of stuff going on. Let's move on and start talking about 8.2 and some of the proper balance that's going to be coming out live when 8.2 launches later on in February around the 23rd. And we'll kick it off with game modes. And we've got a lot to talk about, mostly conquest focused, if not all conquest focused for game modes here. But for the first one, let's talk about the enhanced speed buff. I know a lot of junglers weren't really too happy about some of that bonuses that they were getting on the enhanced speed
It's by far the worst of the enhanced buffs.
So we're making some changes. Going to be removing the crowd control reduction on the enhanced speed buff, and it's now going to provide an additional flat 5% movement speed.
That's about it.
Movement speed is strong, right?
Movement speed is strong.
That's all junglers want. Is it doesn't matter if there's a team fight of Fire Giant, Gold Fury. I want to go fast.
Yeah,
and this lets you go fast.
Junglers only want one thing, and it's disgusting. It's movement speed. And we've had to remove the movement speed. We've had to be careful with amount of movement speed. We did want to be a little careful, but then we saw the feedback that they felt like this buff was just clearly undervalued compared to the other enhanced buffs. All the other ones I think feel really cool and really interesting. We want those scorpions. They're a new objective. We want those to be a part of the game. We want those to be something you're considering at any time in the game. So we think with your jungler being a little bit more invested on that, that's going to really help the team play of the whole map too, because your jungler is going to want this, and they're also going to want to deny it from their opponent jungler, right? So this should create some even more interesting strategy on an already exciting new map.
Definitely. All right, next up, let's talk about Invaders Curse, making some changes here. We're going to be just adjusting the area in general here, but also one thing that I've seen community talk about is just how long it lasts. So we're actually going to be decreasing the time that it's active down from a minute to 35 seconds.
Good.
Yeah, we talked with the pros on this one specifically, and we also just stood our ground a little bit here. We don't want to encourage super early invades.
No.
We don't want matches being decided by 2v2s at level 1. We've designed the map in many ways so that it's a little bit easier to protect yourself, but we want to keep this additional safety feature. So currently we had it really localized around buff areas, so if you really tested the bounds of the Invaders Curse, you could kind of weasel your way into the enemy jungle like pretty far without getting it applied to you.
That's fine.
Now it's going to be a little bit more consistently applied when you really go into the enemy side jungle. And we also just decrease the time. We just want to protect you at the very beginning of the game. The very beginning. Once you start going to laning and start fighting and start looking to invade, and cause through lane
I've actually
pressure,
run into this problem in dual lane this season.
So
we're fighting after the first wave, chasing the enemy into the jungle. I got Invaders Curse after the first wave.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the heck?
All right, let's talk about the Lesser Scorpion up next. Making some changes here, mostly to the healing aura and how the system and the mechanic kind of works. So it's no longer going to provide the aura when the Scorpion is in its down state. And it's got those 3 little pips that you have to hit with basic attacks. It is now going to grant the healing aura to the team that actually gets the last hit. Correct me if I'm wrong, AJ.
Okay.
You're right. You're still going to have to down it. You're still going to have to down it. You're still going to have to kill it once it's downed. But instead of us splitting the reward, we did see a few players. A shout out to some of our ADC streamers. I've seen them when you get some pressure, they kill the Scorpion, but they don't finish it. They leave it at 1 health, and they sit in the area. It was just a bit too narrow. We were really only seeing people utilizing it when they had really safe lane pressure where they could really body out their opponent. We want it to be a little bit more contested and just a little bit more clear in the way it behaves. So now, whoever kills the Scorpion after it's been down to the true last hit, that team is going to get the XP gold as well as access to the healing area.
That's fine by me.
All right, and then just a couple of notes on just like
it makes
the
it easier
map
for newer
and environment
players.
and kind of gameplay. Super excited to announce that we're going to be adding the spectator version of the Conquest map in 8.2. So everybody that's running your community tournaments, you'll be able to get a cleaner version that's got some less height on some of the walls as you're spectating your games, which is super exciting. And then also to the gameplay version of the map, we're just making various environment changes towards the scale, specifically around the fire giant pit, lowering that big wall to kind of prevent some clipping for people with global ultimates, making some similar changes to the order side base archers as well.
Yeah, the key thing to say on this is one, the fire giant, just the scale there felt off. Everyone was saying the fire giant felt tiny. He's like 4 or 5 times taller than a god, so he's big still. So we just adjusting that wall to not have that weird optical illusion. It also it's extended way into the flight zone for many gods, right? So we took those trees down a little bit, not a lot. We've seen a lot of discussion out there. So Pon and I just wanted to call this out too. A lot of discussion about people wanting us to like remove trees or hide trees, but we want to just go ahead and say that right now the design team is pretty happy with the way that the visibility interacts with global ultimates. You have to have some vision of someone. You have to have some teammates in order to really get those more clear dunks. And we
I
think
don't
this
mind
is a fun
the trees,
and, like honestly a way to
there,
balance those characters in some ways too. And we plan on keeping it that way. We don't plan on currently removing trees or allowing people to hide trees or look through trees.
I know a lot of people have been complaining about it.
Because global ults are really, really good on this map too.
It doesn't. Yeah.
So this is one way you can kind of counter global ults, and we think it's a pretty fun and interesting way to counter. And it's a fair way to counter. Like you can tell where people are pathing to and if it's a good idea. There's a lot of normal type of game decision and game visibility decisions that you would make even when you're not in the air. Same type of process goes here.
All right, that wraps it up for game modes. Let's talk about items. We've got a couple here. First up, Gilded Arrow. Going to be seeing a fix/buff here. This item in 8.2 is no longer going to mark jungle bosses.
Yeah, so a relatively minor change here. This was just it feels weird to then have the reward for lasting on a jungle boss where that's like a team effort to kill, as well as it was just kind of marking things as you're running through the jungle when you get to your camp, and it would have marked the gold fury instead of that purple you want to kill. So it just felt a little bit weird. This just makes the item more consistent.
Feels bad, man.
It really just makes sure that you're marking targets that you're likely to get the last hit on that you can control.
That's good.
It's still intended to mark jungle buffs and jungle camps as well, by the way. That's intended, just not bosses.
Should being the key word. This item should no longer mark jungle bosses.
Right, and then probably. We kind of talked about it earlier, but we just want to quickly recap the Mannequin Scepter changes that are coming out in 8.2. It's going to be seeing a fix. We fixed an issue where it was dealing magical damage rather than physical, and we're also decreasing the attack speed slow.
Yep. The fixed damage type it depends on your matchup and what items you start. Could be a little bit more damage or a little bit less damage. It largely is going to be pretty similar to what it was before. And then you add the damage nerf on it, and it's going to be overall reduced. But the other thing was the attack speed slow, especially early on when you have no attack speed built. Characters that have like cleaving chains or characters that rely on the basic attack slot for their clear really, really feel the slow at the start of the game. Yeah. So for a tier 1 starter, that's too intensive an effect. We're toning that back so that players can. It's still not beneficial to trade with someone with mannequins, but you're not completely like zoned out of being able to like box at all.
Right.
Poor mannequins getting slapped twice in a row,
Gods for 8.2, and
we got
Down up first. Going to be seeing a nerf to Aurora's Rockets. We're going to be decreasing the physical power scaling on the ultimate ability.
He really is not performing well at high level games.
Actually, maybe because there's a lot of crazy stuff going on. People are trying a lot of different things. His stats are looking a lot more reasonable now. He was obviously very strong in 7.12, but he got some pretty reasonable buffs in 8.1, and we're just doing one more little buff, and then little nerf, and we'll be keeping an eye on him after that. So think this should round him out nicely. I think this god is still really fun, really interesting, and
I think
a lot of cool
comparably
potential on this new
last
map with his
season,
ultimate.
it felt like Danza did so much like burst damage, but now everybody does so much burst damage, so he doesn't really feel
just a little bit toned
special.
down, just because I know that Rocket was dealing a lot of damage.
Like dealing burst damage isn't super cool anymore. Everybody can deal burst damage,
which is going to be a little bit of a nerf as well. We fixed an issue where Arthur could proc item effects with his basic attacks.
Yeah, so this was a fix that Yorm also got, where essentially they could trigger off like the tier 1 blessings.
I went against an Arthur today,
because all of the starter items are much more like true items in their own right.
I didn't even think about it.
Basic attack doesn't trigger item effects. It shouldn't trigger starter item effects as well.
Yeah.
All right, small fix for King Arthur. Yeah, no mannequins Arthur. Small fix for King Arthur.
Go back to Bluestone.
Some big buffs for Baba Yaga here. Baba's Brew going to be seeing just a large-scale amount of just quality of life updates to just some of the timing on her animations.
Oh, the fact that this wasn't done forever ago,
switching, etc. Upon I'll let
make
you
her
take
feel less clunky.
Yeah, this is one that I particularly was adamant against for quite some time, because I felt like you needed the time to hear the potion being brewed and thrown and understand that it's going to come at you, and she has potions, she's pulling out multiple ones. There's a lot of state going on there that is conveyed through the audio and the time that you have to respond to that. But given the power of it and how players have learned Baba Yaga, and overall the clunk that it introduced wasn't really worth the necessarily gameplay feel of playing against Baba Yaga, and with the reduced timing, it does still feel pretty fair to play against these Baba Yaga potions, because you still have to throw it, you still have a warning target on the ground. So this should just make Baba Yaga feel a lot better to play, a lot better and smoother potion management, and enemies can still play around this effect and play against the potions just fine.
Definitely looking forward to seeing the Witch of the Woods.
Animation changes tend to be strong buffs. So
it's likely very good for her.
These are big buffs, by the way. They are a quality of life, I guess, but they're big buffs.
Yeah. Next up, we've got Jormungandr making some changes to his basic attacks. They will no longer be reduced by items that have flat damage reduction, and then immovable, his passive. We're going to be decreasing the damage taken from debuff from 15% to 10%.
Nice
it has been quite a ride for this poor god. He was the best god in the game when he was triggering items in an abusable way, and then he was terrible, and even last year up and down. So Jorm has been on quite a ride. We're trying to just get him back in a reasonable spot. Now that we've seen the stats of the new season, he has dropped off quite a bit.
I don't hate it.
We're trying to do a little bit more to push him towards support, which I think the immovable buff will really help, so he can't be so bursted by hitting him with specific types of CC.
Don't know if you're gonna get
basic attacks,
support
just with
out
someone
of him,
who's gonna have his basic attacks function.
Gonna be honest with you,
he does.
Don't
we knew this was gonna come
you're gonna push him to
if
the
it wasn't a problem
role.
right now, it would probably be a problem sometime in the future. So we just wanted to go ahead
really
and
doesn't
make this
have
special
a good
rule exception to Jorm
kit.
to make sure that he is always able to do pretty consistent amount of damage through that, so we can balance that more effectively. So I'd imagine to see him coming back a little bit in the solo and possibly duo lanes.
Like you could probably push like a Cthulhu into support. Like you could see how his kit could get enough supporty, but I don't know if you can push Jorm without changing his abilities.
Making some changes to Shifter of Seasons. Summer Heat, we're going to be increasing the scaling from 5% to 10%. And then Autumn Decay, we're going to be increasing the protection debuff on that one, and also increasing the duration.
Yeah, so
really rewarding you for cycling through.
Has some interesting leveling order stuff going on with him, because why the one is such a cool ability, the first rank of it doesn't provide super intense effects, and so in some cases you could just fight skipping points entirely. One thing that we wanted to encourage was that you can go this and get an early rank in it and feel good about it, especially if you're good at managing all the seasons and bouncing back and forth between Autumn Decay and Summer Heat to get that extra damage out. Just makes it more rewarding to have that initial point spent in, and gives that duration is going to make it a bit easier to also execute on the Autumn Decay strategy. You can apply it and benefit from it for a longer period of time. Just a nice change to Kurno's players to make the one feel easier to use, as well as be better at the rank 1 version of it.
You're definitely going to want to pick up Autumn earlier than you did before. That's for sure.
Correct.
It just means that
just a couple more gods
cycling
left
through
in balance
your
here. Odin up next. Going to be seeing a
your
change
seasons
to
is going to be even more important.
One, we're going to be changing the duration of the ultimate to be 5 seconds at all
They
ranks.
keep changing this back and forth in Odin. They cannot decide.
Also, enemies inside the ring
They
will
cannot decide how long they want Odin to be.
15%.
So a little bit of a shift buff. We're taking that top end duration down a little bit to improve Odin's early game and make the ring a little bit more consistent.
That's funny.
But speaking of consistency, this power change, it used to be an attack speed change, right? And we didn't really like that because it was so specific. Like, certain gods didn't care about this at all. Just continue boxing in his ring, which has some weird thematic like implications, like why are magic characters not affected by this? So now that we've seen Odin drop off quite a bit, honestly,
a power debuff is a pretty big deal.
After the rework, we got a lot of community
15% power reduction.
We took him down a notch.
That's hard to fight back
bring
into.
Him back up, and one way we felt that we could do that in a more uniform way would be to have this attack speed debuff of the old days kind of reimagined as now just an actual power, so it affects all gods.
Are we back to never leveling Odin again? Because remember, they originally changed it so that you would actually want to level the ulti, but if they're doing this, then do you no longer want to level the ulti again?
Interfere with the counterplay that exists now with actually breaking out of the cage.
Because the whole point of changing it the original time was that you didn't level the ulti because it didn't do anything.
Too, which we feel is a pretty good balance spot.
So
true.
All right, well,
whatever,
we've got one more for balance here. We've got Isis as our last god, seeing a buff in 8.2. Dispel Magic, we're going to be increasing the slow from 20% at all ranks, and that's going to scale from 20 up to 30%, and then also increasing the shield health on this one.
She's pretty good.
Isis is a pretty similar story to Odin in that Isis got some changes to how core abilities worked, and then was really, really good. We nerfed quite a bit, and then we've been slowly bringing her back up. And one thing that we feel like could really put her into a solid spot is Dispel Magic. Some of the nerfs we did removed her survivability and self-peel. We want to bring some of that back. So Dispel Magic, the slow is going to scale up. So that gives, especially late game where it's harder to just sit there and Wind Gust in people's faces, an extra tool to help enable that, as well as some extra base shield health to also further enable that in the late game.
Okay.
Specifically, we wanted to call out these are both late game buffs.
Yes, both late game.
Isis already has quite a good early game, but she's dropping off really heavily. We didn't want to overbuff her early game because that's where she tends to find her frustration point. Possibly that part of the mistake we made around her reworks. Now we're just going for the scaling, which we think is a lot safer. Hopefully, bring her back into the meta in a more safe way.
Most definitely. Well, that wraps it up for balance, guys. We did it, but we've also got a lot more that's coming out in 8.2 that we definitely want to talk about. We've got some quality of life stuff that's coming up here, and we want to talk about viewer points in the viewer store. We made an announcement last week about how viewer points are going to be working in Season 8. They're going to be moved to this new system via Twitch drops that you guys can earn right now on the Smite game channel, but we're also super excited to announce that as of right now, or maybe about an hour ago, you can earn viewer points on any Twitch stream that is playing Smite, which is super awesome. So
I'm a Twitch stream.
If you want to watch here, if you want to watch
playing
some of your
Smite.
favorite Smite content creators, anywhere on Twitch that has a Smite stream open, you will be able to earn viewer points via Twitch drops. Super exciting. And we've also got the breakdown on how many points you'll be able to earn, where you can earn those points, and all that good stuff.
We're doing it again.
If you guys want to
giving
check
out
that out.
points.
But we're also making some pretty significant changes to the viewer store, and I can kind of pass it along to AJ because we're going to have skins in the viewer store as well, but we're adding some new stuff in there too.
Yeah, so we're not going to go into all the little details on this right now, but I want to talk about the key improvements to this store. So first of all, we are keeping the system relatively similar as last year. You can earn points from watching, except you'll now get to get them through the drops. You can buy a pass with a skin that is going to double your viewer points for the rest of the season. We are generally keeping prices the same, but increasing the amount of points you can earn. That's going to be a little bit faster this year, so you'll reach those 75 and 200K thresholds faster. We're also adding a whole bunch of other items at different viewer point tiers. So we're now going to have new non-skin cosmetics, as well as rotating old skin cosmetics at different price tiers in the viewer store. So there's always kind of something for you to be looking at, maybe buying if you're not interested in the more expensive items. We're going to have a new stretch reward skin, as well as a new buy-in pass skin, and we're going to have new 200K skins, although for the start, we're going to keep the two most recent ones and only rotate those out one at a time. So a lot of
watch
exciting
more
things.
Twitchiest
the
community.
One being that you can
get
earn
more
these from watching
points,
any
get free skins.
Streamer as long as they enable their drops. And you're going to want to make sure you go ahead and check out that UI in Twitch. You can tap on your profile to look at drops to make sure you're earning progress for your drops.
Have no fear.
You also need to claim your
enabled,
completed points drops in Twitch before you go into game to get them. So that's a really big change, but it's a lot more clear. You should always know if you're earning points or not. The previous system was kind of invisible. We love the visibility here. And last note about this whole section is currently in 8.2. When you get in game, the voting tab and the teams tab are going to be intentionally hidden because we are not going to be revealing SPL teams quite yet.
Not quite ready to show off the rosters, but in due time, I'm sure Avi
those
is
will
holding
get shown
the key.
off. More in a few weeks from now, and then we'll go ahead and be including those features, unlocking those features for players to start voting and supporting their teams in 8.3.
Cool. Definitely. Lots of exciting stuff coming to the viewer store. We're actually going to take a little bit of time to show off some of the skins and in our first kind of skin segment for all the stuff that's coming out in 8.2. And then the first skin that we've got up, this is going to be your viewer pass skin for the year. So this is your buy-in skin to get double points for the entire year. Super excited for this one. Voodoo Rock Baron Samdi. And I am loving the vibes and the digs on this one. It kind of in the music theme, but he's not quite heavy metal like we've done in the past. This is kind of a different take on the rock star, right, AJ?
Yeah, we've been getting the requests for a music baron. He just, he has such a party atmosphere to him that we've been looking into this for a while. This is inspired by a lot of different genres of different types of music. We tried to include a lot of different, kind of different references all combined into one, like God of Rock.
Yeah. This one's awesome. We're actually going to take a look at it in game and show off some of the abilities really quick. So let's go ahead and take a listen to the voice pack before we go in game. Oh, never mind. We're in game right now. Let's go ahead and look at what we've got going on here. I'm loving the basics, and Pon's going to go through
some streamer curse concepts, dude.
Those are definitely speakers.
Oh, yeah, that's sick. And as we're going through the abilities, I definitely want to give a shout out to Noah on the audio team, who had a fun time going through and adding the music elements to all the audio effects here. Definitely brings the entire skin together. I'm loving it.
Oh, and the Hysteria, it's the speakers on them playing music.
Yeah, it's just like playing in your ear the whole time. Do 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 do.
Did we just get cantinaed really quick? I think we did.
Yeah, nice, you got the dance floor.
He's shredding the guitar. He's got some ghost ladies hanging out on the side of his speaker too. That is amazing.
Oh, that's sick. Oh man, it's been a while. I think Baron might have been on your list too, AJ. Well, it's been
that is true.
A little bit. Yeah. Baron's gotten the skin, so we're hitting a couple guys in this update, which is exciting. Yeah, so good. This one came together super well, I've got the cue. Let's go ahead and take a listen to the voice back here for Voodoo Rock Baron.
I know this crowd is a fan of the classics, but I've got some surprises up my sleeve too that I know you're just gonna love.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that voice pack is so good.
I like the voice so much.
Oh, that's awesome.
The voice is way better than the skin, dude.
Oh, this is sick.
The skins are pretty good.
This is going to be next up in the viewer store, kind of your first store exclusive for 200k points for Season 8, Infinite Avatar Vamana. And I believe we had an Infinite skin that was part of the viewer pass last year. So kind of keeping with the tradition here. And I love the card art here. And I just love, Infinite skins are like one of my favorite lines. I just love how we've been able to kind of expand that theme and grow it even further.
This might be another skin.
Wow, you cannot tell that's Vamana at all.
List. Oh, I know. We're hitting them
right off the bat.
Yeah.
We also tried to, again, as we often do, add some more experimentation and changes and subgenres within our theme. So this skin, although it's infinite, it's got a bit of a darker spin to it, and we tried to kind of give that a little bit more of a darker theme across the board.
Yeah, this one's looking great. Let's go ahead and take a listen to the
big version of this guy can be real spooky running at you.
Their lack of control will truly be their downfall.
a little more sinister than some of the other Infinite skins.
Yeah, definitely.
A little bit more sinister for
I
Vamana,
love the echoing on the voice packs and stuff as well too. But we've got a nice group of skins that are kind of rounding out the first round in the viewer store. But we've got the stretch reward that we want to talk about here.
Still spinning,
this
though.
one's been around in the community for a little bit.
An hour later, I'm still spinning.
This one last year.
Finally.
Chichen Pizza Shibalanke as your stretch reward this year. So similar to Valkyrie Bride 4.
Finally. This was a closed beta idea or something, or season 1 at least.
So good. Oh man, I'm loving the card art. You've got the rats that are kind of chasing because the pizza. Oh man, this one is looking great.
Now the lore is very important.
I'm afraid
here.
that I
He
don't
is
get it.
looking for a rival pizza organization that is does not get along and competes with Chef Vulcan's pizzeria. And of course he's spinning a pizza as his weapon and throws pizzas at people, because that's the whole that's the joke .gif, right?
This
That's
is amazing. And for
That
those
face,
of you that
though,
aren't in
man.
on the
Look at that face right
Chichen
now.
Pizza is a reference to Chichen Itza, which is a great temple in Central America that is very prominent in Mayan lore, which is super awesome. So
you know what? I don't feel bad about not getting the joke.
This long time.
I do not
Smite
feel bad about
meme.
it.
Let's take a listen to the voice pack before we go in game.
Deep lore joke right there.
Hey, Vulcan's Pizzeria! You got a new competitor in town.
There we go, staying true to the lore here, as AJ said, and I'm super excited to see this one in game.
Throwing pizzas,
he's just
throwing pizzas,
slinging slices. This is amazing.
We've been always trying to keep an eye
I'm not
out
even
for
gonna
some
say
of the
anything.
favorite community meme skins over the years. You know, we finally did Wedding Dress Thor, and now finally Pizza Balanque.
You know what? I am gonna say anything. That is either an authentic voice actor,
I'm gonna
or it's racist, and there's no in between. There's actually no in between.
It's too good.
Either an authentic voice actor or it's racist. That's it.
And shoots out pizza.
That's it.
Oh my goodness.
You know?
It's too good.
I don't know what to say.
Oh man, this is great.
And
I love how you've got like the flashes of all the different like,
Tina with
pizza
a voice.
ingredients and toppings as well.
And I believe the enemy come in blinding, sort of fiery, you know.
But that was funny though.
Darkness.
Nice, like they're in a pizza oven.
A lot of good food references is crossing again.
Yeah. This one is looking great here. This is Chichen Pizza Shibalanque, your stretch reward for the season in the viewer store. So as long as you're watching streams on Twitch, any Smite stream, and earning those points, you'll be making progress towards the skin. Which is super exciting. And that wraps it up for kind of the viewer store / viewer pass section of the skin segment. Let's go ahead and start talking about Dawn of Babylon.
Holy cow, there's going to be a lot of skins,
of the year. And first up in this event that we want to show off in 8.2 is Arachnoid Arachne. And this one is looking sick. You guys know I love all the tech and all the cyborg / mecha skins. This is great.
Spin me right round, scream.
Another unique take on a mech type of feel, right? But not really a mech, very, you know, cyborg android instead. Very clean and simple, but also very sinister and scary.
Yeah,
that's cool.
This one's great. And I got a note here in the audio. We've got some awesome like servo references and elements that were put into the effects and audio for this skin. But let's go ahead and take a listen to the voice pack for Arachnoid Arachne.
System is calibrated. Threats identified.
Nice. Definitely looking forward to this one. This one looks sick.
Those joints are freaking me out.
Oh yeah, that's crazy. Oh my
The way
goodness.
they separate, that's really nicely done by the animation team. There's a lot of detail there.
How are we still spinning after I literally spun?
Yeah, I love the clean, kind of sleek look in this one.
Why
Next
is there
up
so
in
much
Dawn of Babylon, in this bundle, we've got Wild Style Mulan. And this one's got some kind of anime vibes and some bright colors. I'm loving the card art here. We've been doing this more often, but I love the kind of breaking the third or fourth wall here, and it's like you're looking at a security camera and Mulan is just kind of tagging it up here. This one's great.
Mulan.
I love all these super bright colors that we've been doing on a lot of these skins. It just looks so good in the game. It like pops a ton.
Is it though?
Nice. I love the white and cyans, complemented by the pink too. The colors are great.
And this skin has a bunch of extra features with the weapons. Yeah, she's got the sword is a pipe, and I believe her spear is a skateboard. And we even have a half pipe that gets spawned in briefly for the ultimate deployable. She's got some cool stuff going on in this one. Yeah, we really tried to, fill out the whole fantasy of this graffiti punk vibe.
Oh, definitely. Oh, yeah, this makes sense. It's kind of in line with like the past, like the Thor skin that we had.
Couple of the skins
let's go ahead and take a listen to the voice.
I don't know. Right in some sort of line. I don't know.
Yeah, I break rules. If we follow all the rules, we miss all the fun.
There you go. Definitely loving the personality in this one. And we've got one more skin to show off before we get into Tiamat. And this is probably Tina's favorite skin of the patch. We've got Northern Warder Khepri as a part of the critter chest. And we've transformed the hug bug into a fluffy little Northern Warder. And I love it. I love it. I love it. What do you think, AJ?
Well, the idea was what type of mystical creature could we make Khepri instead of a bug, right?
That looks
we were
great.
trying to imagine something that was mammalian, right? And how could that work? How would that feel? Something that you would see from a lot of different types of fantasy. And it was an interesting challenge, honestly. I'm really happy with how it turned out, though. I think it's super unique, and I think it makes the
face has like some mad detail to it.
An even better, wider variety of choices for players.
His face is so cute.
I know. Yeah, this one turned out really great. Let's go ahead and take a listen to the voice pack for Northern Warder Khepri.
I am as old as the glaciers of the north.
That's exactly what I thought it would sound like.
They are being threatened.
Good.
Nice. I love it. I love like the deep voice. And Khepri, he's got the guardian, the support, the protector vibes, and the voice pack definitely echoes those themes. I'm looking forward to seeing that one in game. But it is time. It is time for the reveal of Smite's newest mage, the first god of Season 8. What everybody's been waiting for, I'm sure Chad has been spamming. Come on, let's get to it. We're going to take a quick break, and on the other side, we will be revealing Tiamat, goddess of the Salt Sea.
We've all been waiting for. Probably got to get the trailer, I'd imagine. Partial nudity. It's just Bacchus running around. I like how it's all crazy high def, except for that one little scene with Cthulhu that definitely looked so much worse than the rest of it. It makes me laugh. I'm glad that they've been doing all these like hype trailers though for all the new characters, I feel like it's so good for Smite's like marketing.
This realm can be saved. Remade.
You got some creepy eyes. She's already one-shotting tanks. OP, OP. Partial nudity was actually just Zeus's nipples. Gilgamesh is gonna have a hard time keeping up with the coolness of Tiamat, you know what I'm saying? Like, multi-color, beautiful dragon comes up, regular human guy, you know what I'm saying?
But you found only death.
He's got a cool sword, sure, but so does Arthur. You know? What usually happens is Tiamat's kit is super complicated and everybody sucks with it except for like the top 1% of people, and then Gilgamesh will just be busted because he has like 4 hit you in the head abilities that are so good.
A quick second to shout out our amazing partners over at Glow for all the awesome cinematic works that they've been doing with us over the past season. But it's time to talk about Tiamat. We switched out Pon for Clumsy. Pon's still going to be with us in spirit, driving and showing off the new goddess here. But we've got Tiamat, goddess of the Salt Sea, first god of season 8. We put out the closer look blog yesterday, but kind of recap. Talk to me about Tiamat. Who is she, and who is she in Smite?
Yeah, Clumsy, get nice and close to the camera.
Go ahead, Clumsy.
I was going to say, so Tiamat is the primordial goddess of the Salt Sea, who mated with Abzu, the god of freshwater. She's a symbol of chaos and primordial creation. In the Babylonian epic of creation, Tiamat gave birth to the first generation of deities. Her husband Abzu assumes that they're going to actually go ahead and kill him and usurp his throne, and later makes war upon them, and is actually killed himself. Enraged, she too makes war upon her children, her husband's murderers, taking on the form of massive sea serpents, who is then later on actually slain in the stories by Enki's son, the storm guard Marduk.
It's a battle of the gods.
I did not follow that at all. I'm going to be honest. That was too much lore for me too fast.
Yep.
Yeah. And so talk to me just a little bit about kind of her theming and her kind of our key pillars for Tiamat and Smite, AJ.
So Tiamat is a primordial goddess, which we have a few of. They're always very interesting. They have really, really broad and powerful abilities. Tiamat is about creation, and she's about creation, order out of chaos. There only was chaos before until Tiamat and Abzu started kind of giving things life and giving things a form. Unfortunately, those first gods, they chose to rebel against
that's such
her
a cool
and fight back
aesthetic,
against
man.
the so
that's
Tiamat
really a cool aesthetic. I love the bright colors,
to
man.
fight back
that's
with
so cool.
To fight back with, and we're going to be leaning into the kit. Her visual and personality themes are really about kind of finding the subtle sweet spot in between a monstrous creature and a wise goddess. So she is her visuals are drawn from a lot of different animals, all kind of combined together. We wanted her to have a sort of a base form of a dragon or serpent as she is described in her ancient mythology, but we wanted to give her a lot of unique looks. So she's got feathers, she's got fur, she's got different types of carapace, she's got a jellyfish sort of
one of my favorites.
Yeah, all sorts of things. And her personality is also conflicted in that regard. She's very calm and collected and neutral, but she's kind of saved the Smite world for now, right? But she's also very straightforward and powerful and demands respect, which different gods are going to take in very different ways. And we're going to be exploring that throughout the year.
All right. Well, we've got a chance to look at the card, and this turnaround, like her model looks
turnaround really do be turning.
I'm about ready to see Tiamat in game. Wow. So, as is tradition for the update show, I will give the reins to Pon and let him go wild, and then we'll talk about it.
Go wild. Ooh, triangle. Ooh, nuke. Ooh, monsters. Ooh, a leap. I feel like there's so many abilities happening.
Oh my goodness! Absolutely, that was so much. Did Pon crack the game? Oh my gosh, there was so much going on. Oh, that was sick. He probably
those animations look so fluid.
Too many abilities.
The color and tone details.
Even the Smite server said, "No, really not letting that one."
Did an insane job. I mean, she's got, I think, the most abilities in the game actually.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
pulling the plug. Never, not on my servers. You're not says Smite.
Supreme God for the most abilities in Smite.
I mean, she's the primordial queen and the mother of monsters, the first of the Babylonian pantheon. We really wanted to do justice on who Tiamat is with so many different themes. I think the team did a fantastic job.
Yeah, and we'll be back in game in just a second, chat, going through setting things up. Just again, Tiamat was just too strong. She's too powerful.
We had that conquest match running for like an hour plus or 2 hours, so that's why we had to restart. But nothing with Tiamat's kit, although we expect you all to find some stuff on PTS as well. Clumsy, you could give just kind of a brief overview of the kit if you'd like as a start. The core goals, core themes.
like we talked about in the closer look blog, which I hope all of you guys got to see, is that Tiamat has a lot of different themes going on, right? She's the mother of monsters. She's this primordial queen, the goddess of the salt sea and primordial creation. And we wanted to really, and she's the first of the Babylonian pantheon, right? We wanted to take all these different themes and come together to create a creature in our game that was really unlike anything that you've seen before. So amongst that, we wanted to make her a stand switcher, which in a way is also very different with how she switches between two different archetypes of mages. And you're going to see that come into play with her passive, which we can get into in just a second, I think.
Yeah, so we're gonna do things just a little bit different here. We're not gonna go like in order of like actual abilities. We're gonna start off with the stance switch first, and then talk about everything else. So first up, we've got Grounding Dive, which is her ability 3 in Flying Stance. Talk to me about Grounding Dive, Clumsy.
Yep, so Grounding Dive is a movement ability and a mechanism to go in, switching between stances. So Tiamat goes between Flying Stance and Ground Stance.
Okay,
Grounding Dive, all it really does is actually transition to her with a leap, dealing damage when she hits the ground, and bringing her to her ground stance. It also provides Tiamat 1 hardened scale, which is a part of our passive, which I'll get into in just a second. But the opposite of Grounding Dive, which you can now use as the third ability in this stance, is Rising Flights.
Yes.
Suffer thee no more.
Nice.
So Rising Flight is also pretty simple. It's a blast of energy that deals damage to energies and extends herself backwards, returning her to her flying stance.
I love that.
Using Grounding Dive and Rising Flight is the only way to switch between these two different stances.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Super unique. So her stance switch is tied to her ability 3, which is her movement ability. She can either leap in and go to grounded stance or leap back and go to flying stance.
Cool.
So let's
There's
talk
a lot
about
of
the passive.
really unique dynamics though with the ability of having to use your movement ability to also change stances, because a lot of times you're using your movement abilities as a very reactive state, and then all of a sudden you've got to fight with like a different kit. It creates a really different feel for this character compared to all the other stance switchers. And also just take a look at how tall she is, towering over that Odin while she's in her flying stance.
I know. I think we talked about it in the closer look. So she's taller than all the other gods, but not quite as tall as Jormungandr or Cthulhu. She's kind of in the middle ground there.
And her camera height is higher as well to match that.
The other thing to note in the two different stances is in the flying stance she is ranged at magic attacks, but in the ground stance she's actually doing melee attacks.
Okay. So she got range and melee.
We've got the stance switch down. Let's talk about the passive. Death Gets Life.
So Tiamat's passive does a different thing in each of the stances, right? That's kind of the gimmick here. So in the flying stance, Tiamat gains health from nearby ally and enemy deaths. So that's any deaths around her, but a little bit less for minions. In her ground stance, she gains up to 5 hardened scales, and that's kind of the mechanism that allows her to be tanky in that stance. So gaining a hardened scale is actually damage mitigation that breaks after a certain amount of damage is taken. It also counts for nearby ally and enemy death, but not including minions this time. So mostly gods and like jungle monsters, large jungle monsters.
Okay.
Definitely.
So she's got some built-in sustain already in her kit.
Stance abilities here.
Already.
And we'll start off with Primordial Onslaught, her ability 1 in flying stance. What's going on with this one, Clumsy?
Yeah, Primordial Onslaught, Pod, if you don't mind me being an annoying one, can you set level just so you have the ranks 1 and 2? And then we'll go on from there, because Primordial Onslaught, well, Tiamat gains power, allowing her to fire orbs of energy at the end of the channel. Each orb stops on gods, but damages minions and enemies on the way through, going through walls. And as you can see, as she charges up, she gains from 1 to 2 projectiles. At ranks 3 and 5, that actually increases. So at rank 3, she goes from 1, 2 to 4 projectiles. And then finally at rank 5, she'll gain all 6 projectiles if you continue through the entire channel.
That ability is hype.
And you can see her like beautiful cuneiform glyphs like around her back kind of filling in as she channels. I think we did a lot of work actually to get that feeling right.
My goodness.
Yes, this one looks great. And I'm going to ask Pawn to kind of charge up and kind of do a sweep as you fire, so we can see how the projectiles kind of interact with this one, because it's kind of unique.
Oh yeah, you can definitely change your mind mid-fire and switch targets.
Yeah, if you hit the same god with multiple ones, you are going to be doing less damage per successful shot.
That's a cool ability, man.
This is still her primary
machine gun.
This is going to do a lot of damage. If you walk into this and take all 6 shots in the late game, you're gonna feel it, right? It's gonna feel like a Scylla Crush.
Oh yeah.
And one thing that's important as well is that because the amount of projectiles increases as you rank up that ability, her early game, even though she's a stance switcher, isn't actually the strongest. But we can get into that a little bit later as we talk about her hit. And now we can get to the second ability.
All right, yeah, let's talk about Ruination.
Yeah, cool.
So Ruination, Tiamat creates an energy field. That's going to be what we call a double-rounded triangle, where it deals low damage to enemies in the entire area, and then a larger amount in the inner area after another time to deploy. The inner area will then also stun enemies that are inside of it.
Oh!
So low damage, and then high damage and a stun for enemies inside the center.
That's a cool targeter.
I love the effects on this one. Of course, I called it out a little bit, but new shape. I'm sure people are hype about that.
So she's got a stun.
Always.
She's got a big damage nuke,
really
a stun,
the sort of like
self-sustain, and damage mitigation.
Magic that Tiamat wields. It's
not
just like something that would burn you or destroy you. It's like, imagine that Tiamat just undoes things that she wants to destroy, right? It's really cool.
Just Control Z.
Yeah, right.
Right. So we're talking about kind of her undoing things, but let's talk about her creating things. It's time to talk about the ultimate.
That was fantastic.
Yeah, her spell effects are wild.
I appreciate it. I've been practicing, you know?
People were wondering, how is Tiamat going to be summoning all these different creatures, and how does she have all these abilities? Well, that's her ultimate in the flying stance. If you can see right here, she's actually going to be toggling in to another stance, really, another posture, where she can now use 3 completely different abilities in this stance. They all will share a cooldown. The first one here is Summon Serpents, where Tiamat will place a Pit of Creation, which spawns Serpents of Tiamat that travel down the minion lanes, just like minions, just like lane minions. They attack nearby enemies. If you do them in the jungle, they'll try and attack things nearby before finding
Clumsy finally got to make his invoker.
Every 10 seconds. And
for those that don't know, he's been wanting to make the invoker for years. He finally got to make it for Smite.
Enemies that are hit by the serpents will have their damage done reduced. These guys are really a new mechanism that we haven't really tried before, which is passive lane pushers.
Yes.
Interesting.
A little bit of other health as well is that they take 1 HP from god hits, including abilities, per unique ability, as well as 3 hits from minions. So they are a little bit tankier to minions, and like I said, they apply that damage reduction debuff as well to gods and minions.
You can do some really interesting lane pushing and XP farming tricks with this ability too. And it's a very unique ultimate in that you can choose which one you want. So if it wasn't clear, this is used by pressing 2 different buttons to activate the ultimate and then pressing another one to choose the creature. Similar as kind of the way you would do Merlin's stance switch choice.
Yep. Enemies also can actually stand on that Pit of Creation deployable, the circle where they spawn from, to actually destroy it early as well. That's if they can find it, if they can get to it. But in general, these minions will, if you actually see, they don't have a lifetime. They will keep traveling until they're killed eventually by towers or the Titan.
I was going to bring that up. I was going to say, so these serpents are persistent. They will push until they die.
Yeah.
And yeah, that circle will only last 3 waves of these minions. You can only have 1 of the pits out at a time.
No, poor
But from
Odin.
there, I think we can go into the second of Tiamat's flying ultimate abilities, Summon Beast, where Tiamat creates a different one of her children, Kusariku, one of the ones in the stories, who stands guard at a target location. A little bit different to the primary purpose. Kusariku, or Summon Beast, if an enemy god gets too close, he will charge them and slow them and then attack them. He will wait guard to protect Tiamat and protect locations. So you can see he's just waiting there, but if there's a god nearby, he will immediately start attacking them and slowing them extremely heavily for 80%, but only for 1 second.
Oh, okay.
All of these children we're spawning here from Tiamat are also based specifically on ancient Babylonian texts, and they have their ancient Babylonian names, which Clumsy's doing a pretty good job of.
Everybody wave goodbye to that Odin bot. He's out.
I hope I'm doing okay there.
Yeah.
So yeah, he serves a completely different purpose, and you can get to him in a little bit more detail, and with his purpose. But I think we can go on to the third one of Tiamat's children, which is a little bit less of the normal kind of monster child as you'd see, but it is Umudabrutu, the Violent Storm. And Umudabrutu, or Summoning Storm, when Tiamat creates this deployable, it actually follows enemies before knocking them upwards and dissipating. So, Umudabrutu, the Violent Storms, is actually still one of Tiamat's children.
Yes. If you guys caught on social media,
she's got a knockoff.
You know we love our distracted boyfriend meme here at Hi-Rez, and this is one that we were thinking about here. So it's kind of like Cuckoo Tornado, but not really. But it follows around. But again, all the effects.
The 3 other spoiler tweets were actually the references to her 3
a dash, damage mitigation, a heal,
runic style,
burst damage ability,
to these, which was a really cool concept.
2 separate minion
like I mentioned a few times
spawns
earlier, and I can get to again later. Each one of Tiamat's ultimate children really provide a different purpose to her gameplay. Remember I said they all share a cooldown, so you can only use one at a time. So if you want to use those basilisks to spawn and push down the lane, that's fine, but that means you won't have your Minotaur, your Bulwark there, who might help root down a single target if you're being ganked, which also means you might not have Umu Debrutu there for it when team fights break out, and you might want that AoE disruption.
Right.
All right. And I think we've got 6 abilities to go. I think we've got all of her abilities in her melee stance, plus her ultimate in her melee stance. I think we've got 6 more abilities, y'all.
Probably the biggest talking point on social media after the closer look is Consume. Let's talk about Consume, Clumsy. What's going on with this one?
So I love introducing this one to people because I just go, it's a simple cone, right? You Consume, you just look at it, it's a simple cone, it deals damage and it slows enemies. But wait, there's more. We really want to try something different here. Consume in the grounded stance. Tiamat can actually use this in minions, on large monsters, and buff holders, as we're about to see, to execute them underneath the health thresholds. So you can see the little FX mark we have on those enemies. It'll instantly kill those enemies. Now, as you might have seen with this kind of mechanic before, if Tiamat actually does this to a buff holder, well, things get a little bit interesting. And I think I love seeing all the different ideas that people had when we said she duplicates buffs, but there's actually a little bit more to it as well. So Tiamat is able to consume and immediately gain one of these buffs, as we're about to see. Bang. She dropped a red buff in the world, and she gained a red buff as well. But there's a little bit more to it too. If Tiamat kills another jungle buff holder without using, well, not necessarily without using Consume, if she already has Consume, a consumed buff, so go ahead and kill that, she can then actually walk over and pick up a second buff. So not only does she
wish I could see
buffs,
chat right now.
Yeah, I know. You're gonna be like, wait a second. What? So she actually is able to, the first god who will be able to utilize 2 different buffs. They all have the maximum duration, and I know people are going to be thinking, this is just insane. But there's a lot of different things we did to make sure that this feels balanced. In fact, we actually started out with the consumed buff having like 20% of the duration, or 30 or 50%, but we noticed that trying to force this kind of gameplay, and even if you're playing her in the jungle, it's not the easiest to make
so
use
she
of
can
this.
have 2 buffs, and she also has a minion execute.
But in Conquest, if you're playing in the mid lane or the solo lane, it may not actually be that easy to get this going. But like people said, if you want to drop a red buff, pick that up for yourself and let the support go ahead and grab that, well, you're feeling pretty happy.
It's generally just difficult. You can't be everywhere at once, and you don't want to disrupt all of your lanes starting positions in their normal jungle flow just so you can get an extra jungle buff, especially not necessarily in the early game. But I'm very excited to see how the pros use this and when they do coordinate themselves in that way, and if they do try a completely different start when it's a Tiamat in the game, because then we'll really see the pinnacle of this power.
Wow. Yeah. And I'm definitely anticipating, if a Tiamat is on your team, you're definitely wanting to prioritize the Greater Scorpion to get those enhanced jungle buffs.
Yep, Pawn's got a good point here. Another thing that you can see is that just like in the stories, Tiamat can actually consume her actual pets. So they will immediately be executable by Consume. You can see those little points. And what that does, if you remember from the passive, is that she can actually gain hardened scales, which is what allows her to have the extra mitigations when her pets die around her. So if she summons minions in the flying stance, her pets, and then goes into the ground stance and immediately consumes them, she will be even tankier. She gets 5 stacks of hardened scales. I know, it sounds like a lot, guys, but believe me, it'll all come together.
So much. All right, well, that was Consume. Let's talk about Outburst. Going to be the second ability in grounded stance.
Outburst, a lot more simple. Tiamat slams the ground, creating seismic rifts that erupt in succession in front of her, damaging and knocking up enemies.
Son of a...
That's all it does, I promise.
That's it.
Don't you dare give a character 2 knockups.
Rolling damage and
you don't dare.
Yeah. We've already talked about the third ability, which allows her to switch stances, but then she's finally got her ultimate in ground stances.
Yes. Tempest of Undoing, her ultimate in grounded stance. What does this one do?
So Tempest of Undoing, it causes an outburst around her, dealing damage in that circle around her that you see, and also a small dot effect to any enemies that are hit by this, gods and minions. Now, the other thing to note, just one small other caveat, is that when Tiamat uses and hits enemy gods, she also gains 1 hardened scale per enemy god hit. This ability is her main way of generating hardened scales outside of just stance switching. So we assume that you're not going to be using her pets and consuming them or people dying nearby. So you use this right after you've dived in on as many gods as you can to gain many
So really, she has like 10 abilities, basically.
Man, that was a lot. Tiamat is super, super interesting, and lots of stuff that we just haven't done before with lots of unique gameplay ideas and mechanics. How do you guys kind of envision playstyle recommendations, and where do you see her kind of fitting in the meta and in Conquest?
But 12 knockups.
So, I mean, she's definitely most likely going to be a mage that you see in the middle lane, but I think she can definitely flex in between the solo lane with a tanker playstyle, or maybe even in the jungle if people really
think her
want to try
build
to get
can
maximum
flex?
utilization.
You think
out of
so?
consume.
You think there's a little bit of wiggle room in that build to maybe flex around, fulfill some roles?
A small bit of clear with those 2 shots of her Primordial Onslaught. So unlike most stands, which is like Merlin or even Artio, for example, her early game is going to be harder to get make use by. Conduit Jim has helped a lot in the new season, but still, even with that, it's a bit rough.
Yeah, that's a great point. She is different from other stance switchers in the fact that if you want stance switch at level 1, you have to invest in your 3, which may not be the best ability for you to take.
Yeah,
so definitely interesting. That's a great point, Clumsy.
The other thing to note is I know you guys have seen this, a lot going on. We wanted to make sure that Tiamat really did justice to all of these different themes. I think it's going to make a lot more sense when you get your hands on her. And another thing to note is that while it seems like she has a lot that she can do, it's all actually coming out over a longer period of time, right? Even if you're using the entirety of her kit, you're using Summon Beast to slow down an enemy, into Ruination, into Primordial Onslaught, diving into enemies, and then using her entire combo there. That's still not maybe as much burst as just using your 3-1 ulti combo as Evo. It's coming over a longer period of time, and it forces you to jump into the fight.
Definitely. Well, thanks so much for going through everything, Clumsy.
Yeah,
I know you put in a ton of work on Tiamat here.
That's wild.
I'm super excited for players to get their hands on
She's gonna be a blast to play though, so whatever.
But before we break, we do have, some recolors and mastery skins that we want to show off.
She's gonna be a blast.
The first one, your standard recolor, is Azure Sea Tiamat. And we tweeted this art, and everybody immediately was like, who did this? This is absolutely amazing.
Yeah,
I know AJ, yeah.
This was my favorite of all of her cards. I mean, they're all really cool, but personally, this one speaks to me.
Yeah.
It's just something about her rising from the depths, and you see the wreckage and stuff around.
Hopefully, we'll get to play her.
I love that we kept kind of the
normally
pinks,
PTS has
instead
come
of
up
the
on
cyans,
Friday,
we go into a deeper purplish here. This one's great. And we've got some voice lines that we want to show off as well. So let's listen to the first voice line we have for Tiamat while we look at this recolor.
Is flawed and full of corruption. I have arrived to cleanse the land and reshape it in my own image.
Oh, I love this. And then I got to give a shout out while we're listening to the voice pack to the audio team, specifically Chad. I know he took in a lot of work kind of thinking about the weight on both of all the audio effects as we transition stances and stuff like that. For Tiamat. It's super awesome. But we've got the next recolor as a part of your Season Pass 2021, your first Ascended skin of the year.
Ascended what?
Be, Tiamat.
Ascended
and
what?
I love kind of like the greenish yellows here. What do you think?
I mean, we had the different purples, and we've got these awesome greens. I love this kind of hue on this crazy monstrous creature.
This is a very unique color choice, and I really like it. And I think it really appeals to the people who are looking for the more reptilian feel from her.
That's a good point.
Which is what I think comes through with this, which is really cool.
It's bright. It's
let's
really
take a
bright.
listen to another voice line for Tiamat.
I see insects competing for supremacy, playing God. Let me show you where the God really is.
It's when your salad fights back, dude.
All these voice lines just
more
are
ranch,
super,
more
super
ranch.
Great. Let's transition into mastery skins for Tiamat. Will be available day one when she launches. So if you're grinding, getting those worshippers up, you'll be able to unlock the gold, legendary, and diamond skins.
Damn.
Here's the card.
Dang, that's a cool card art.
So beautiful too.
I know. I love how she's just kind of grasping that energy and is just ready to onslaught someone and just like undo their entire existence. We go in game here, see the turnaround. And I believe we have one more voice line for Tiamat. Let's take a listen as we transition to the legendary and diamond skins.
You dare test your might against Tiamat?
Is the voice pack changing?
No, we don't want to test our might against Tiamat.
I know, right? Yeah, I definitely do not. So there we go. And I believe we'll be transitioning to the legendary and diamond skins here in just a bit. Yep, there we go. There's legendaries.
Oh,
the
these
black
colors
and gold
really
is
pop
my
on her,
favorite.
man. It's
Legendary is sick.
I always love this theme.
Legendary is always sick.
Characters. This looks.
I've
so
always been
badass.
a big fan of
I always
legendary
think about,
skins,
where are we gonna, do the color blocking for the creatures? Because with humans, it's
black and gold dragon, dude.
Tell,
reminds me of like Heroes of Might and Magic 3 or
the art
something,
team
dude.
takes for the mastery skins on creatures is really great.
I like that one a lot.
Yeah, we kind of just went all
skin.
out on the mastery colors for Tiamat here.
Yeah. There's the diamond. There we go.
Diamonds never do it for me. I don't know. Never been my favorite.
Yeah, I want that.
Definitely.
Who's gonna be getting that day one, day two?
Oh,
one? What's the challenge nowadays?
I love the new god race for the first to diamond. I love getting those tweets. This one looks great. Well, that is a wrap for the Goddess of the Salt Sea. Lots going on with Tiamat. I am super excited. I hope all the players are super excited. I know the entire team internally is super excited. First god of season 8. I believe PTS is Pantheon. There's so much going on.
Usually
awesome.
PTS is Friday,
but I believe PTS is targeted for Friday, so be sure to keep an eye out on all the official Smite Game social media channels. We will be sure to let you know when you'll be able to log in on PTS and test out the newest mage coming to Smite. But that's a wrap here for us. Thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in. We will catch you all.
Yeah, I mean, she looks really complicated, which doesn't necessarily mean OP, because they can always tone numbers down. But what it does mean is standardly when gods get that complicated is even if they are good, they end up being really good at the ultra high end of like Diamond Plus gameplay. And then a lot of other people struggle with her at lower end. So we'll see kind of where she falls in that. But typically if she is going to be good, which she looks like she will be, there's usually a pretty strong dichotomy between like top end and bottom end, which we see with quite a few other characters in the game. But other than that, all the balance stuffs were great. So shout outs to all the balance changes, and I guess we'll play Tiamat on Friday to see what happens. But thank you guys for coming out to the stream today. Thank you guys for all your support. Big flexes to all of you guys that support us on Twitch by watching Sunday through Friday. For those of you that help us out through sponsors like Backblaze, making sure your PC and Mac, all of it's all backed up. 15-day free trial. Type an ! Backblaze. Check it out down in the panels down below. And for all of you guys that support us by following on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, don't forget to enter into our 40,000 gem giveaway for February. That's 5 winners of 8,000 gems, guys. Thank you. Hope to see you bright